Good morning. Yes, it is still morning. The Land Grant Seminar Series, the fall semester series. So today, as you know, we introduced our NRS Fix 5101 Seminar Natural Resource Environmental Science. This is the outline for the rest of the semester. So today we have a speaker there. You can see we'll introduce him shortly. Next week, stay tuned. We have students who are going to be presenters. They're going to present about their summer internship. So Ms. Kelly Redman and a few students will be our speaker for next week. And you can see the rest of the presenters for the following weeks. With that, I would like to introduce to you today's speaker is Mr. Stephen Sturdivant. He is an environmental engineer with the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, Region 6, Sustainable Management of Food Program. He holds a degree in mechanical engineering from the University of North Texas and has been with EPA since 2006. He is specializing in sustainable food management since 2009. Before joining EPA, Stephen accumulated extensive experience across various industries. In his current role, he provides technical support and education aimed at reducing food waste. His topic is From Plate to Planet, how sustainable food management can save our environment. With that, welcome, Steve, and the floor is for you.
All right, great. Can you guys hear me okay? Hi, can you guys hear me? Hello, can you guys hear me?
We're working on the audio. Just a second.
Okay.
What? He was
Hello, testing.
doing it. So. What? Go ahead and speak, please.
Hello, testing. 1, 2, 3.
I think we can hear you, but not loud enough. So let's.
Okay. Hello, testing. Hello, this is a test. Yeah, okay. All right.
Just a second. Let's increase the volume a little bit more.
Okay. Testing some more. Hello, everyone.
Hello, we hear you.
Yes, yes.
Just a little bit more, Josh. He's working on that one. Just let's see if we can.
Sure. Yeah, sure thing.
Up the volume a little bit higher. So.
Okay, I'll stand by. In the meantime, I'm going to practice sharing my screen. Let's see if that's working well. Great. How does that look? Pretty good?
It looks good. I think, yeah, we can see it clear and full screen. So.
Great. How's my volume so far? Still working on it?
We're still working on the volume.
Okay. All right, standing by. All right, testing. Hello, hello, testing.
It's not working. Okay. Sorry. There was a class in here before, so I couldn't test anything. Yeah, there was a class before. Can you talk? Can you talk,
testing?
Steve?
Yeah, testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing. This is a test. Hello and welcome. The Environmental Protection Agency.
We hear you. The volume is still low, but we hear you very well.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just keep talking so that you guys can practice.
Oh, this one is good.
Okay. Environmental Protection Agency. Federal government agency tasked with protecting human health and the environment. Created during the Nixon administration because people were demanding clean air and clean water.
Maybe you have to speak a little bit louder. So we're going to test your vocal cord today.
Okay. All right. How does this sound?
Much better.
Much better?
Yeah.
Okay. Can people in the back hear me?
That's the loudest I can make it.
Yeah, yeah, you did good.
Okay. I'll just try to speak kind of loud, I guess.
Yes.
Okay. I will keep that in mind. All right. So should I get started?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So my job here today is to teach you something, maybe something new, and to encourage you to take action on what I'm teaching today. So it's up to you to review the information I'm presenting and decide for yourself, is this information actionable? Will I take action? You are in
Can you
college.
share your screen, please?
Yes, I will. Absolutely. In about 15 seconds, I'm going to share that. I wanted to just talk real quick to the audience here. And, we all hope going to college that we will have the skills and knowledge to go into the world and better the world, right? Solve problems and improve, society in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of important issues that need attention. I'm going to share with you an important issue that the EPA has taken on in hopes you will take on as well. I'm going to present to you a very big issue that affects our world. And I'm going to go over some simple things that we can do to address this issue. And perhaps your innovation and creativity can help foster a better path forward for all of us. Okay. So that's my hope. Keep that in mind as you're watching this and decide at the end if it's worthy of your time and attention. Okay. We have a program called Sustainable Management of Food. It's here for a reason. It's because our food, we do this 3 meals a day, don't we? We buy and eat, consume food, and that has an impact on the environment. It has an impact on people's lives. And I'm going to go over some of those environmental impacts and some examples of things that we all can do to take action at home and at our businesses to encourage them as well to take action on this important issue. Why is it important? Let's talk about one of these environmental impacts. Let's talk about water pollution. I myself was surprised to learn that the main cause of water pollution in our waterways is from food production. What's happening? Well, when it rains and floods, some of the farms, stuff gets washed off those farms and falls into our waterways. Things like topsoil, fertilizer, pesticide, animal waste, right? From the cows, pigs, chicken, and fish farms. The shit and piss gets washed into our waterways, into our rivers, and it's called nutrient pollution. And it remains the single greatest challenge to our nation's water quality. It presents a growing threat to public health and local economies. It contributes to toxic, harmful algae blooms like you see there on the left, right? This robs the water of oxygen and creates hypoxia, which kills fish. Fish need oxygen in the water and they will die. And it can create ocean dead zones for marine life, like the picture you see on the right. Right? This can contaminate drinking water sources. Think about that. That's gross. Okay, this is one of America's most widespread, costly, and challenging environmental problems. It affects these local ecosystems and economies. Okay, this is a huge impact, and it's our food that's causing it. Okay, what else can we learn? How about deforestation, species extinction, biodiversity loss? Again, I was shocked to learn that the main cause of this is our food production. You know, some of us talk about urban sprawl. You know, our parking lots and highways are eating up nature and killing wildlife. Well, we humans are using way more land to grow our food than any other human activity. It's to grow our food. We're going in with bulldozers, tearing it down, setting it on fire, disrupting the soil, killing off the wildlife so that we can grow food. Okay? It impacts local indigenous communities. And it can release carbon, right? What am I talking about? Carbon here. Well, land can release carbon dioxide or absorb it, depending on what we humans do with it, right? If we leave land alone, right, those trees and that ground can keep that carbon near the ground. But if we go in and disrupt nature, tear it down, till the soil, then that carbon is released. And why do we care? Why do we care if carbon stays near the ground or if it goes up in the air? Well, because we care about climate change. As the climate changes, more people may be exposed to extreme weather like heat, floods, droughts, storms, wildfires. What am I talking about here? Climate change. There's something called the greenhouse effect, and it's happening to our planet. And we humans are causing a speeding up of this effect. Imagine leaving your car on a hot summer day in a big parking lot, and you step in that car and you're going to feel nice and hot, right? Hotter than the outside. How is that possible? It's because light goes through the glass, heats up the air inside, and that air is trapped, right? And gets warmer. That's why your car is hot when you get into it. This is a lot like the greenhouse effect, where our atmosphere, you can think of, you know, some of the gases in the atmosphere act kind of like that glass, trapping that heat. And that's going to add more energy to our climatic system, which can fuel these more extreme weather patterns, right? That we are not used to when, you know, living in where we live and growing the food that we grow. Climate change can cause these extreme weather events that can kill people in those events or can disrupt their economies, you know, and their ability to grow food, for example. Climate changes can also lead to more diseases. It can affect the quality and safety of air, water, and food. Climate change is expected to worsen air pollution, which can pose health risks like heart and lung disease. Low-income households and people of color often already live near factories and industrial pollution, and this could make them even more vulnerable. Pacific Island communities are already experiencing saltwater contamination of groundwater systems due to sea level rise, another effect of climate change, right? Climate change is happening and we're causing it. We're adding more greenhouse gas emissions to the atmosphere. We're thickening that blanket, right? That glass. Extreme heat is already the leading cause of weather-related deaths in the United States. As the temperatures rise with climate change, heat waves are expected to become more frequent and more intense. And this is going to affect poor communities, the elderly, and people with heart problems, right? So we hear a lot about fossil fuel emission reduction as a way to solve climate change. And yes, we should absolutely reduce fossil fuel emissions. But what we're going to find out later is that addressing fossil fuels alone will not be enough. We have to also address our food, right? And we're going to learn more about that later. That's why I talk about this. It's because it will be critical to addressing the biggest environmental threats to humanity. Okay, so we all have to eat, right? We can't avoid eating. What can we do about it? Well, we looked at the environmental impacts of how about just the food we throw away, our food waste. What are those impacts? Let's take a look. Okay, so our report covers a lot of information. Let's see here. Let's see if I can zoom in. Imagine, if you will, this loaf of bread represents food available to all Americans. The white box is what we eat. The blue is what we throw away. And it's many times more food than we need to feed all food insecure Americans. That's a lot of food waste. More than a third of our food gets wasted. Okay. How do we compare to other countries? Well, here it is. The top row is us, the United States, per person per day. That's how much we waste. And look how that compares to other countries. Even other high-income countries, we waste far more food per person. What is going on here? Okay. Also, keep in mind, it's not just the food you're throwing out. You're also wasting the resources that was needed to grow that food and the pollution caused by the food system, right? These are all impacts. These are all consequences of wasting food. It takes cropland to grow our food, right? To grow feed, to feed the livestock or to feed ourselves. That land could have been rich with wildlife, biodiversity, carbon, right? It could be helping clean water, right? Like through wetlands. But now it's being used to grow our food waste and releasing more greenhouse gas emissions, right? Fresh water. It takes water to grow our food, doesn't it? Right? Water to grow the animal feed or to the human food. You can take this number, 151 liters per person per day, and I encourage you to compare that number to your water bill at home. You might be surprised, as I was, that I was wasting more water in my food waste than all the water I used in my whole house. That's crazy to me. You know, we see the water go down the drain, but we don't see the water needed to grow our food. We're not making smart choices here, folks. I'm taking shorter showers, you know, skipping out on washing my car, thinking I'm helping to conserve my water use. I didn't even think twice about my food waste, right? It takes fertilizer to grow that food waste and emissions. And across the board, the United States is the most wasteful. Okay? We can do better than this, folks. All right. What else can we learn about food waste? We looked at a bunch of different studies. Here are 4 studies that looked at the different types of food waste. You can see it categorized there at the top, right? These are just 4 independent studies from different universities that looked into this. Their scopes and methodologies might slightly differ, but you can see in general, fruits and vegetables tend to be wasted quite a lot. You can see that there in blue. Now, this is by weight. What does food waste look like by greenhouse gas emissions impact? It tells a different story, doesn't it? So, for example, let's take meat, poultry, and eggs in orange. We don't throw away much of it, but the little that we do throw away represents the biggest share of greenhouse gas emissions impact from food waste. Now, why is that? It's because different foods have different impacts on the environment. You can see here 4 studies that looked at the production greenhouse gas emission impact of different food choices. For example, beef by far causes far more greenhouse gas pollution than the other food categories. You can see that here. So different choices have different impacts. When we waste food, we waste fertilizer. A lot of it's going to animal feed, right? Feed that is grown to feed cows, pigs, chicken, and fish. A lot of it is corn. And when we waste food, we waste land. And most of that cropland is used to grow feed for livestock, for the animals. Is this an efficient use of this natural resource? Okay, where is food waste being generated? It's being generated all across the supply chain, right? You see here in green is farms, purple is manufacturers, red is retail, like grocery stores, And the blue is restaurants and homes, right? And at restaurants, it's largely the food that the customer leaves behind at the table, right? A lot of blue on this chart, right? A lot of studies looked at it again. A lot of blue, customers and consumer behavior is causing a good chunk of food waste, right? Some is happening at the farm level, from slaughterhouse plants or rejected produce on the farm that may be perfectly good to eat, but doesn't meet certain size, shape, or color, right? Maybe the carrot is crooked or the potato grew too large and it got rejected, but still perfectly good to eat, right? So I try not to be so picky at the grocery store produce aisle. Okay. A lot of food waste today is being landfilled, and that's causing even more greenhouse gas emissions. At the landfill, food waste gets piled underneath trash, and so oxygen can't get to the food while it breaks down. So instead of latching on to an oxygen, that carbon latches onto a hydrogen and creates methane. And methane is a far more potent greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. Methane. So it's making things worse. Some food is being rescued and given to food banks and other organizations to feed bellies, not landfills. Please do that if you can. We, the federal government, encourage food donation, and we also have passed legislation to protect you from liability when donating that food. So there's no excuse not to. When managing food waste, we want you to start at the top of this list of things you can do about food waste with source reduction. What is that? That's basically preventing food waste before it's generated. How do we do that? By changing our habits. That is the most preferred. Unfortunately, businesses start at the bottom. They reverse this. They start with landfilling. Maybe they'll compost, but they need to start at the top first and foremost. There's a good reason for this. It's because of the impacts, right? The benefits of these different choices. You can see landfilling is on the far right. Worst thing you can do for greenhouse gas emissions. Composting is better, right? Donation is even better and has a huge social benefit. Source reduction from greenhouse gas emission standpoints is far better at reducing emissions. And why is that? It's because of where the impacts occur along the supply chain, right? We're learning about where the problems are and where the solutions are. Here's the supply chain. You can see here on top, this is the natural resources that are put into the system. And at the bottom are the impacts like greenhouse gas emissions coming out of the system, right? This is where our opportunities are. And you can see on the far right, once it gets to you, the consumer, there's very little we can do about it, right? That's why source reduction is important. That's why it's important to know where the impacts are occurring. I'll give you an example. A lot of people that live in the city like me, they see a lot of trucks on the road and they think to themselves, you know what? I'm going to buy local. I'm going to be a locavore and only purchase local food. Surely that's going to reduce greatly my greenhouse gas emissions impact. Well, there's a lot of great reasons to buy local. The social benefit, right? You're helping give money to your neighbor, right? That neighbor can then use that money to feed their family. And buying local is so important. But from a greenhouse gas emission standpoint, to reduce pollution, despite the level of attention it receives, transportation from farm to retail is only about 6% of food supply chain energy use. International transportation, right? Sending food from across the ocean only accounts for 3% of food's emissions, right? It has an impact, but it's very small compared to the overall impact of food. Okay, so wait a minute. If it's not the trucks on the road, then what's causing all these emissions? Well, it's at the farm, right? It's four main things. It's the land, first and foremost, right? When we turn nature, when we destroy nature and turn that land into food production, carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere. And when we keep that land in food production, and then that land is not able to rewild and regrow and revegetate. And so there's an opportunity loss there, right? You're preventing that land from sequestering carbon, right? And that ends up being a huge source or potential sequester. Also, it's enteric fermentation from ruminant animals like cows. When they breathe, cows breathe out methane, right? They provide beef and dairy products. It's also the animal waste, right? The shit and piss from the animals, and that's cows, pigs, chicken, or fish, right? And greenhouse gas emissions of all types are released from that waste. And it's the fertilizer, and that could be chemical or organic, being used to grow crops to feed the livestock, the animals, or to grow crops to feed the humans, right? So it's that fertilizer. It gives off nitrous oxide emissions, which is even more of a potent greenhouse gas than methane, right? These are the four main sources, right, of greenhouse gas emissions from our food system. Right now we know, right? That's why science is awesome. Okay, how do we prevent food waste? Well, we've asked businesses, hey, businesses, what are you doing to prevent food waste? Let us know, and we will share your best practices and success stories with other businesses. That way, they're sharing ideas on saving money and preventing food waste. We have all of those stories online. We've got these nice little checklists that you can check off. They're just one page long. Link is at the bottom, and email me. I can send you these. If you have any influence or power at a business, get them to think about their food waste and what they can do about it. These tools can help. Okay, also, make sure to do your part at home if you can. You could save about $2,000 a year by not wasting food. That would be a nice, juicy check at the end of the year. We've got a lot of great tips for what you can do at home as well. I'm still learning just how to store certain food. Does it belong in the pantry, the fridge, the crisper, the freezer? Does it need to breathe? How do I store this food, right? We've got those tools, those resources. I'm going to show you just a couple of tips and tools and ideas just to get your creative, blood flowing, to be thinking about food waste, things we can do. Okay, we've got a really fun website here. For example, you got these helpful tips. I'm going to go over a few of these. So this is a fun website, Save the Food, right? You can go here. Let's say you're having guests over and you don't want to make too much food because you don't want to have that food waste, right? So you can plan ahead, right? Planning helps, right? Let's say you're going to have 4 people over, right? Let's say you want a couple of leftovers. All right. What kind of meal? Let's say the veggie paradise, right? Let's see what that menu looks like. And here you go. It gives you an example. It's customizable. So you know exactly how much food you need to make, how much food to buy. You can finalize your menu, right? You can see exactly how much food you need, and it gives you tips for each one of these, like the beans, an excellent protein option for non-meat eaters, combined with a carb to complete the dish, right? Your potatoes, mashed potatoes left over can be used on sandwiches or in place of mayo or cheese, right? For your day after meal, right? You can go through here and see those tips. Okay. You can also meal prep. This is something I do at home. I meal prep. I plan my meals throughout the week. I do kind of a big batch cook and freeze everything in single serving containers, so that way they're frozen in time in the freezer. A lot of food waste happens in the fridge, right? So you can accidentally overbuy. But if you're meal prepping, you know exactly what you're eating every day of the week, right? And that way you only buy what you need. So you can come in here, choose a plan. All of this is customizable as well. Let's say we choose this plan, right? And you can see here the number of days you would like to make for that meal. And then you can plan your shopping list, right? That way you're not buying too much food and wasting it later, right? You've got the ingredients here, the recipe on how to make the dish, right? A lot of fun stuff. Okay. These are all available to you. Another resource is this fun little chart. Now, a lot of people don't know about the crisper drawer at the bottom of the fridge. What the heck is that drawer for? Well, it's to control the humidity of the air inside that drawer. In the main fridge area, it can get kind of drafty and that can dry out some foods. So foods that need some humidity should be in these drawers, right? Some people don't know that, right? Carrots need high humidity. Some fruits like pears, apples need some humidity, just maybe not so much. And there's a little slider on that drawer that you can control the amount of air going in and out of that drawer. Some people don't use that stuff, right? If they're being sprayed with water at the grocery store, chances are that's a high humidity food and needs to be in that crisper drawer, right? Fun little tips like that. Okay. A lot of stuff here. We've got a toolkit. I'll show you a couple of things here. It's customizable. We've collected successes from other cities, counties, like Alameda County. You've got these good resources you can click on, a lot of different outreach materials. I can click on one, for example. It takes you to this website with some, zero waste applesauce and the banana nice cream video, right? You always get that big batch of bananas. I know I do. And then some of the bananas are getting a little too ripe. So what can you do about those leftover bananas? Well, they've got these fun little videos here. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it, but shows you a recipe for leftover bananas. Hey. And there you go. Banana and ice cream. All right. So a lot of tools out there, a lot of fun videos to get you thinking. There's a lot of also content creators, influencers that have, quick and easy, like 60 seconds. Here's what you can do to save money at home, to prevent food waste. Check those videos out as well. A lot of great info out there. We just got to look for it, right? We just got to care enough to put it in our search results, right? For me, like I said, the fridge produces a lot of food waste. Any food I can't get to in the fridge, I can chop up and freeze and use later in a soup, stir fry, or smoothie. Easy stuff. I'm going to show you a couple more fun videos here. More tips. All right. Let's see another one. Those leftover carrots always comes in a big bag, don't they? All right, one more. All right, I'm showing you this because a lot of us don't think twice about food waste, right? Or what we can do about it. So I hope these are fun little videos that get you thinking. Also, airtight containers are your friend. Go ahead and splurge on some really good airtight containers, reusable ones. It's going to help save you money, I promise. It helps me save money. When you freeze food, prepared food, whatever it is, even cooked rice, you can prevent freezer burn by picking the right size container for the portion of food. What I do is I'll buy these small containers, stuff it full of food, and then when you push the lid down, you're kind of mushing the food up against the lid. That's what you want because you know that there's no air at all. Because what happens is if you leave air in those containers, the top layer might get a little freezer burn, a little icy, which is fine, but it might change like the texture of the food. So just pick the right size for the job. Another little tip for freezing, and why we freeze food is because that way we can prevent it from going to waste, getting spoiled. Another tip is for berries or corn or peas, something small like that. Put it on a tray, lay them out on a single layer, freeze them first, and then you can put them together in a bag. And that way, it won't freeze into like one big ice block to where you have to like chisel it. You can just pour however many berries or peas that you need right out. Yeah. So another little tip. Okay. If you're at a business, what can businesses, corporations do about food waste? Well, if they're generating food waste, they can at least look in their trash can and see what they're doing. Often these corporations don't even take this easy step of knowing what they're throwing away, and that's money they're throwing away. So let's do it. Here's an example of just, getting over to the dumpster, pulling out that trash bag, ripping it open, and measuring the food waste, right? Put the pizza in the pizza bucket, the fries in the fries bucket, and now you're collecting data for that company, right? Even kids are doing this stuff. We've got a guide for school children, and they're collecting how much food is wasted, what types of foods, and why. They're interviewing their peers and asking them, writing down what they're throwing away and asking them why they didn't finish their food, right? And getting that valuable customer feedback right back to the kitchen. You can set it up something like this. Super easy, right? This is an example of what we can do in the real world to help businesses reduce food waste. Okay, more pictures of these audits. A lot of environmentalists will look at these pictures and see the plastic waste immediately and think, oh my gosh, let's do something about the plastic. And yes, we should. But often these same people will skip over the food waste. And the greenhouse gas emissions impact of food is greater than the packaging it comes in, right? Don't forget about the food waste. Now, when I see food wasted, I see the resources wasted, the land, right? The species extinction, the groundwater depletion, right? The river pollution, the greenhouse gas emissions. A lot of aquifers throughout the United States are being depleted. We're running out of water, right? Some rivers don't make it to the ocean anymore because we're pulling so much water out, right? We're experiencing a massive species die-off because of all the land we're using up. Okay, more pictures. You can see here the kind of the different buckets filling up. You can weigh the buckets with like a little hand scale, easy stuff. Interview the customer, right? Write down the word carrots, right? They didn't finish their carrots. Ask them why. They say, oh, they were too dry. Okay, write down the word dry. Easy data collection. Here's some results. This school wasted a lot of rolls and mashed potatoes. By greenhouse gas emission impact, it was the steak finger waste that was causing the most impact. You're going to find common reasons why your customers are throwing away food, right? And every time we are surprised by the reasons given. For example, in this audit, the apples were too bruised, the fries were too dry, the stir fry had too much sauce. The head chef had no idea, and he went straight to his staff and said, hey, let's use less sauce on the stir fry. Let's switch out the spoons. They're saving money on sauce. The customers are happier. They're saving money. They're saving the planet, right? Easy. A lot of food left over is perfectly good to donate that we saw going straight to the trash can, right? You can do something about this food waste. You can have a share table or an after-school program or give it to a nonprofit that could be right down the street from you. Here's a map of Dallas, and every dot represents a charity trying to feed hungry families. And I was shocked when I researched this. Sometimes I would donate to the food bank, right? These are larger, warehousing kind of areas. I didn't know that they didn't give food to the homeless directly. They're a distribution center. They take your food donation and then distribute it to smaller operations, right? Which is a great thing. But these smaller operations have to pay for those logistics and have to buy food from the food banks. And so often businesses can just partner directly with these smaller organizations like soup kitchens, homeless shelters, pantries, organizations that are feeding people every day. And if you can donate food directly, often you can donate a larger variety of food, food that might spoil quickly, that can't, sit at a warehouse for a week, right? Or, prepared food, you can get it over there, a lot faster, right? So, and these organizations get that food for free. So often they're more than happy to come drive over to your business to pick up that food. So if you have any influence in a business or corporation, when you enter that world, encourage them to partner with a local nonprofit to get their food donated, right? Instead of wasted. Also, a quick tip about date labels. Let me zoom in here. Okay, you know those date labels on packaging? Those date labels mean like the food's no longer safe to eat, right? Well, no, that's not what that date means. We're talking about the best by date, the use by date. There's little tags on the food. Except for infant formula, dates are not an indicator of the product's safety and are not required by federal law. There are no uniform or universally accepted descriptions used on food labels. Often, it's just an indicator from the manufacturer to tell the retailer when to cycle that food off the shelf and put new food on the shelf, right? Sometimes it might have to do with like the texture of the food or the color of the food, but it doesn't necessarily mean the food is unsafe. You can see here is an example of a food bank that accepts canned food years past the expiration date. So just keep that in mind. You could be throwing away perfectly safe food. Okay. You may want to check with your local health department. They might have requirements around food donation. Check with them or check with a local nonprofit feeding charity. Ask them how they do it, what their requirements are, and I'm sure they'll help you out. Easy stuff. Different cities have different requirements. Okay, I want to show you some more tools that we have. This is a calculator that calculates the emissions impact of different types of materials, different types of foods, plastics, whatever you're wanting to do. You can convince your corporation or business to care about food waste by showing them how much emissions they could save and then brag about to their customers, right? We're talking about a huge impact here, just food waste. Enough emissions to equal 42 coal-fired power plants, enough fertilizer to grow all plant-based foods, enough land to cover California and New York State combined. Now, I want you to think about this. If we stopped wasting food, we could free up all that land. And what would happen? That land would return to nature. Nature would take hold and rewild and pull carbon dioxide right out of the air. This is a huge solution. Okay. Here's some of the key findings of our report. I wanted to share this with you because this is important stuff. Even if fossil fuel emissions were stopped, the food system alone could prevent us from addressing climate change. Now, not a lot of people are talking about this because it's dreadful to imagine, but this is true. This is what the scientists have found. Even if we stop fossil fuel emissions, we have to also address our food system because that emits as well, right? You see this number, 1.5 degrees of warming. That's the average global temperature increase that would trigger a lot of these extreme weather events and cause great disruptions in our society and create all kinds of suffering. It's predicted the climate change is to kill millions of people per year around the world. So we've got to stop this, and addressing our food will be critical. So how do we address our food? Well, through three main things. It's changing our farming practices, changing our diets, and reducing food waste. And it's got to require all three if we are to achieve a sustainable agricultural future. right? If we're going to feed everyone and address climate change and address water pollution and water conservation, we've got to do all three. We also found that among food
Steve,
categories.
can you try to conclude in a minute or two, please?
Yes, yes.
So we
this
can
is
have
my-
time for questions and answers.
Beautiful. Yes, this is my last slide. Among food categories, animal products require the most land, water, fertilizer, and energy and emit the most emissions per unit of food, right? So here it is, right? We've got to stay below this line here, right? Here's if we do nothing. Here are some solutions to the problem. It's all laid out right here, guys. It's just a matter of, do we care enough? Are we ourselves being impacted enough to care about this? Or do we care about the suffering of others? And we should do something about it, right? That's the question I leave you here today, and I'll open it up for more questions.
Thank you, Steve. Let's give our speaker a round of applause. Okay, so we open it up for questions and answers. So any question from the audience here? We need a brave person. It covers a lot of important stuff about climate change, about importance of food waste, and right, what can you do about starting like composting things and right, lots of day-to-day applicable things that we can do, right? Yes, we have a question here.
While everybody's thinking about your questions, how could you deal with the packaging materials that come with those tailored food companies? You got something from Amazon, it has a ton of packaging. To me, that's environmental pollution. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so we have a
you.
program dedicated to,
Did you hear the question?
yes, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, Steve, go ahead, please.
Can you hear me? Hello? Can you guys hear
Yeah.
me okay? Yeah? Okay. Great question. We have another program here at EPA.
Can you hold on a second? Let's work out the audio, please. It was much better before, so.
Hello, testing. 1, 2, 3. Hello, testing. 1, 2, 3. Hello?
Hello?
Hi, can you hear me? Hello, testing.
Go ahead.
Hello,
Try-
testing.
Okay, right now it's better. I think
Yeah.
the echo. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, guys,
Did you
can you
hear
hear
the
me?
question or not?
I did. Yes.
Can you please go ahead and answer it?
Yes. Okay. We have a program dedicated to plastic waste. We have an entire other program dedicated to it because it is an important topic. But keep in mind, a lot of companies only focus on packaging. They do not focus on food waste. And that is the reverse order of what they should prioritize. They need to prioritize food waste first, more than the packaging, because the environmental impact of our food is greater than the impact of the packaging. We see the packaging waste, right? We see that waste, but we don't see the waste at the farm, the shit and piss, the pollution in the rivers, the greenhouse gas emissions, the effects of climate change, right? The destruction of species and biodiversity. We don't see that impact.
Yeah.
That's why food should be a priority over packaging. But both
have-
are important.
We have another question here.
Thank you, Steve. Nice presentation. I have a question now. We talk about the food waste in the farm level, household level. How about the food wastage in the grocery store level? And in my experience in US doesn't have business system to have half price for the perishable fruits and vegetables like in Europe, right? When it is near to the perishable level, you give half price and people consume that, right? And here I see in the grocery stores, you sell rotten stuff there. So how EPA address this?
So EPA has no authority. We cannot tell grocery stores what to do because Congress has not given us that authority. If you want us to regulate grocery stores, you will have to tell your elected officials that you care about this and you want them to pass laws to give us authority to do something. Otherwise, it's up to each grocery store what they choose to do, and we do work with grocery stores and encourage them to do the right thing.
Good.
But all we can do is ask and hope that they will do something. Some grocery stores are better than others, but keep in mind, food waste from grocery stores is less than food waste from restaurants and households, right? Customers are wasting more food than grocery stores. Just keep that in mind.
I think I have a question here for you. Most of the people who are here are researchers, and they are looking for funding opportunities through EPA. I know, for instance, you have the PPP program that I was benefit from it. Do you have any other program that our researchers can basically, instead of, put most of these things that you are talking about into some results, or share that information with stakeholders? So can you please elaborate a little bit about some opportunities?
Yeah, sure. There's been some opportunities to help governments reduce food waste in their municipalities. There's been grants to help with farming practices. There's been grants to research, alternative proteins, plant proteins compared to animal products, right? There's a variety of ways to address these environmental impacts. And I would encourage you to always be checking grants.gov. EPA is just one agency, but there's a lot of agencies that give out grants from time to time, and it will fluctuate. So once a grant is announced, you may only have a couple of months to respond to that grant before the application time closes. So you can go to grants.gov, and you can even set up alerts, and you can search by keyword. You can search by the word food or food waste, right? And you can find grants there as well. If you want to send me an email, I can try to find some specific EPA grants that are coming along, but be sure to check that website for all the agencies. All the agencies have to announce their grants on that website, grants.gov.
Any other questions? I think we have. All right. If you don't have any other question, we really want to thank you for your time. We really appreciate your presentations. And I think this presentation doesn't forego in-person presentation that we would like to have you here when your schedule permits. With that, let's thank our speaker for a good presentation. Thank you for attending.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.